Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It is 100% a new day, and we haven't been here all night working non-stop. It's nearly midnight, but it is perfect time to put the engine into the, I nearly said Cresta, into the Chaser and start it for the first time. Because tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, we're going to the dyno. So, let's get this thing running for the first time. I cannot wait to see if the engine even runs, because it's kind of a slap together, how you doing, how you going, bogan kind of engine. But it's a 1JZ, so it should be fine and it should love it and it should last forever. So anyways, it's just a missile. Let's put this thing in. We got the clutch all aligned, ready to roll. Should be as easy as drop the motor in, get the trans in, and then bolt everything up and turn that key after we put oil.
The difference between you two working on this is ridiculous.
What?
Daiki's at like maximum reach and you're just casually like at eye level.
Well, I have to be in a place where my head fits. And he's like, this is too low for me still. Like he's like, oh, this is too high for me.
Daiki would have to jump.
When I have it set to my height, Daiki almost needs a little kid step. Like a step ladder.
Can you touch the top of the trans tunnel? Barely, but
then like I'm under the car like
yeah.
It's fine.
You could even jump under there, Daiki.
Please be in line. Otherwise I die.
おいもうちょっとそこです。よし。ピポッといつも。
多分ネジ大丈夫今。
ネジ入れるか。
Yeah. Oh, it's. Yeah.
Thank God. I was thinking we had to take the engine out and line it up with the transmission again.
Fuck you.
What? What?
Who taught you those naughty words?
Sam.
Oh.
Oi! You knew those words way before you met me. I know what you did in New Zealand.
Bullshit.
Daiki after dark.
We are getting close. Be able to start putting fluids in this thing. It's a little tricky how some of this goes back together. If you have a JZX100, you probably know, but like generally the intercooler piping here is really close up against the radiator, especially if you have a triple row one. There's not much space left, but we always make it work. I'm in the process of just getting all of the Defi gauge sensors plugged in, figuring out the rest of the piping for the hot side. But everything's pretty much done here. Fill up with fluids, put a battery in it, and we are good to go. I am so excited to hear this thing start. This is the first 1J I've ever built. and it was kind of a little bit of a, you know, bitter, throw whatever you can at it kind of engine build. So, definitely not how I really want to build a 1J. I think next time, like I've already said, I really want to do like forged internals in one, and not even like turn it up. Like it doesn't need to have high power or crazy boost. All I want out of a 1J is a good, reliable, non-stop hitting, you know, drift car. So it would be cool to just kind of have that with forged internals. So then you know it's never going to break and just takes 1 bar non-stop. This car will be tuned to 1 bar tomorrow, just like every other car that's at Ebisu on a stock ECU. Sure, this thing will probably have a little bit more ignition timing and maybe some other benefits that the Link ECU gives us, especially when it comes to like diagnosing stuff. Links are seriously the best. Stock ECUs, it's so hard to know if you've got a weird issue to figure out what's going on. I highly recommend change to a Link. But otherwise, this thing's pretty much the same as every other car out there. It's just, I guess, bright pink and maybe looks a little nicer. That's it. It's just a missile, guys. Just a quick bit of advice for anyone who's pulling a motor out of a JZX. Don't even bother trying to disconnect the harness off the engine if you're pulling the motor. Just take out the ECU wiring harness and the plugs under the dash and pull the whole thing out this way and sit there. It is way easier than dealing with trying to snake everything around the intake manifold. It is a nightmare to do inside the car and arguably almost impossible unless you take the intake manifold off. But it is also very easy to just push all of the wires and the harness straight down. Just gonna feed the car and pull them down. Push it in as far as you can here, then get on the inside and pull. Let's hope nothing leaks. We didn't forget anything stupid under the car. Get some brake-in oil. Feels so good for fluids to go into this now. Feels too fast. Feels unnatural that we got this thing together so quickly. I'm so glad everything's going according to plan so far, touch wood. Hopefully the dyno goes well tomorrow and we can drive this car at Matsuri. But worst case, we have the bogan. Here we go. We're gonna build some oil pressure.
Hold.
What's it hitting?
The coolant.
Hose?
Yeah, the coolant hose. The cap wasn't plugged in. All right, should be clear. It's hitting the shroud.
Is it?
Go again. Yeah. The fan's catching on something.
You I forgot something. Forgot to finish tightening the bolts on the clutch fan. So we'll do this, and then we've got oil pressure now, so we should be good to start her up. So excited. All right, we should be good now. Let's plug the fuel pump back in, and then ready to fire her up. It's time to crank this thing and hopefully it starts right away. We've already got oil pressure. We should have fuel pressure now. See if it goes. Come on. Come on. Why does it sound so pissed off?
A few moments later. A few moments later.
I'm kind of stumped.
The next day.
It's the next day, and I'm draining coolant. And all of this has to come back off. So I've been at the shop for the last couple hours, just diagnosing, going through everything. I even was going backwards and forwards with Jimmy, just trying to bounce off other people and figure out what's going on. Because nothing's really changed that much with the car, and it's weird that it won't idle and won't run, and it sounds like it's misfiring. To me, it sounds like something's out of time. But every time I check, all the markers line up. Now, on the crank timing gear, there are two markers. One's a dot and one's a line. I was tired and sleepy. I didn't bother to double check, and I went by the line. I think you're supposed to go by the dot. Looking at the Toyota service manual, you're supposed to go by the dot. And even though I turned it over by hand and nothing was hitting or clashing, and it was fine, I think that's our issue. So I'm gonna pull the radiator out. I'm gonna pull all that timing gear, covers and everything off. I'm gonna redo the timing and hope that's it. Put it all back together, and hopefully it'll run good. I've already spoken to Matsuri, and he's got no problem with me coming tomorrow morning and we smashing out. So 15 minutes later, we've pulled down everything. It's crazy how quickly this all came apart. Now, I figured everything out. Come down the rabbit hole with me, because this is crazy. I initially thought I may have messed up down below because the timing gear on the crank didn't have the dimple mark. Let me show you. That the other spare engine over there has, and my 2JZ comp car one. So see how there's a dimple mark here on this one? Might be hard to see, hopefully the camera kind of focuses. But see that dimple there? And then see where the woodwork key is. This is actually true TDC, right? When that's straight up and down. But this little marker here is usually what you set all the timing to, so you're out by like 30 degrees or so. So if anything goes wrong, there's not gonna be any, piston to valve touching. But what's really confusing is when there are multiple paint marks and lines and stuff. Now, I had the exhaust side lined up with this line here for TDC. And then you go 1, 2, 3, 4 back, and then that's the marker you're supposed to do. This little pink marker. Now, I messed up on the intake side a lot. I went by the dimple marker here, not knowing that that dimple is actually the marker that's, 4 degrees out. This line here is TDC. So I was like, oh, this line is probably just so you know how many degrees you've adjusted it by, right? No, that is actually the TDC marker, and that is the one that you're supposed to do the timing to and everything. So what I did was I had this one set to TDC, this one set to the one off. Hang on, there's two markers, all right? Just all you need to know is this wasn't set to TDC when everything else was set to TDC. So the intake cam was a total of 4 teeth out. That's our problem. So, just let you know, I probably could have read this on the instructions, but it was late at night when I put this on. This line up here is TDC, and this line here is what you set your timing to. Cool, awesome, we all understand that now? Great, I'm gonna put it all back together now that we know what the issue is, and start this thing up. YouTube magic, just like that, everything is all back together. Now, if we're correct, and that was the problem, which I'm 90% sure it was, we should be able to start this thing now, should run fine. Just in case any changes I've made have messed anything up, I'm gonna revert back to the original file, and we will crank this thing. I think we are ready to go. Let's see, everyone, say a prayer in the comment section for me. There she is! Let's go! It is always the simplest stuff and usually the thing you overlook. I am so happy. She's running. She sounds good. Let's go! Hell yeah, brother. Oh, I'm so excited. She sounds good. Little lean right now, not bad. That's good, breaking those rings. Keep it lean and mean. I know everyone has a different opinion on how you should you know, break in your new engine. Some people say you gotta do 500 kilometers or a couple hundred kilometers. Some people say just throw it on the dyno and add some load. Some people say let the car idle for 24 hours overnight. Some people say run the car for 4 hours at 3,000 RPM non-stop. I've just kind of worked out a little bit of a thing on the lift by adding load as if it was on a dyno, by using the foot brake, running it really lean to get the rings nice and hot. That seems to work the best. If you're ever wondering if your rings are bedded in, before you attempt to do anything, compression check the engine, and then after you think you've bedded in the rings, compression check it again, and it's very obvious. But anyways, that aside, I think we're good now. This thing sounds very, very energetic. She sounds spicy. Sounds like a 1J. No engine noise, nothing weird. I did forget to tighten my fan again on the radiator, so I broke my shroud and just put a crack right through it. I aluminum taped it up and made use of the SAMMIT tape. Otherwise, this thing is mint. I'm very excited. The idle is really nice. Love that. Engine sounds great. I still can't believe we pretty much rebuilt an entire engine in 2 days. Bear in mind, obviously, you know, it's probably been a total of 3 days getting everything ready. But damn, man, what an accomplishment. Built my first 1J. Seems to be okay so far. We'll find out on the dyno tomorrow. Touch wood. It looks like it wasn't only the fan shroud that broke. Might have to order a new fan. That thing's so old though. Look how discolored it is, so it's probably a good time to change it. I'll have a huge list of things for Daiki to kind of touch up on the Chaser while I'm away, but for the most part, I'm stoked. Let this thing cool down. I'm gonna drain the oil while it's still warm, and I'll do a compression test as well. Make sure everything's all looking good there number-wise. I'll let you guys know what the numbers are too. For now though, I just want to kind of relax and work on a few small things. When we were pulling out the harness and stuff, a few like butt terminal connectors got ripped out and stuff, and I don't like that, so we're gonna put a proper dish plug on that. Just work on a few things to tidy stuff up, and then we'll be done with this thing and load it on the truck ready for tomorrow's dyno. Man, I'm so excited. I'm so relieved. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you're obviously a car person, but like when you have done a ton of work, to not see instant gratification is very, very frustrating, especially when you've put in a ton of time, money, and just sleepless nights, I guess. It happens to us. I don't know how many times I've had issues. It reminds me of back in my driveway, working on the Skyline late at night when it's pouring rain, getting drenched because there's an event the next day, and trying to diagnose an issue. Being able to have the link ECU really helped, being able to kind of like see that there was nothing physically wrong there, but also go through and look at all the data that I was getting from everything. It just kept pointing back to a timing issue. So I'm glad I had all of that and was able to figure that out fast, because if I didn't, I probably would have spent a couple days and just given up on this and maybe just driven Matsuri with the Bogan 32 only. So I'm stoked that this is still gonna make a tune, and we should still have this thing in Matsuri. I'm excited. Like, I know it's not a crazy build. It's not gonna make 1,000 horsepower. We're not gonna be going, I'm gonna put a switch in the dash actually. That's gonna allow me to have high boost and low boost. And that's purely just so that when we're driving with everyone, 1 bar, if I wanna compete with this car in like EDS or G1 GP, then I push the button and I'll have 1.2 bar of boost. So just, you know, a bit more power for comps and stuff like that. But otherwise, the motor's stock. We've just done cams, adjustable cam gear on the intake, a good head gasket, and fresh bearings. And rings, fresh rings. So this thing, hopefully will get me another 4 or 5 years out of this thing. It's gonna see limiter a lot. 8,000 RPM of limiter, baby. I didn't want to bore you guys doing every single cylinder, but I've got the compression tester out. We're doing the last one now, which is number 1. I'll tell you the results after this. Let's do it. Last one, foot on the gas pedal. Been doing 10 cranks for every single cylinder. Oh man, I'm so happy. We are even across the board. Every single cylinder is 160 on the dot. And bear in mind, we have aftermarket cams in this, so that will bring down the compression a little bit too when doing a compression test. But we're looking golden. So we've gone from averaging 140, 150 in the old engine. I think they were like 130 and 150. Yeah, 6 and 1 were 130, and then the rest were 150. Across the board, pretty much. It's looking at this gauge, it's hard to read, but it's pretty much 165 across the board. Freaking perfect. And there's a good chance that may actually, I mean, the fact that it's 165 across the board now pretty much means the rings are embedded in, which is great. But yeah, I think I should do one more comp test after the dyno tomorrow. Probably once I'm at Ebisu just to have final numbers, and then we'll know and be able to keep track of the health of this engine. But I'm stoked. The fact that this thing has such good comp, and it was a slap together engine, there's no weird sounds, not a single leak, by the way. Freaking love that. About to drain the oil, we'll inspect that, make sure there's no big crazy pieces of metal. Usual kind of bearing wear stuff will be in there from fresh bearings, but that's it. Fill it up with fresh oil, off to the dyno tomorrow. This has been nothing but a great success. Just finished draining the oil from the Chaser, and it looks really good. Obviously you see just like, you know, the little bit of flicker, or not flicker, but like you got this kind of glittery kind of hue to it. It's not metal, it's just like the bearings being worn in. Otherwise though, nothing I'm not used to seeing with a fresh engine build. It's actually really, really nice. Very excited. I think this motor's gonna do really well. Hell yeah. I'm gonna drain that, put some fresh, nice, good stuff in there. Tomorrow morning is dyno day, so I want to see you guys down in the comment section. Guess what power figures do you think this is going to make? We're only keeping it at 1 bar. I think it's going to be 380 to 400. Maybe, I mean, the meme 420 would be cool, you know, but I don't think it makes that much. I think it's going to be 350 to 380. That's my guess. I'm curious to know what you guys think. 1 bar, stock, 1 JZ with just pond cams, Tomei pond cams. Oh, by the way, you can get Tomei parts that you saw me use on this 1J on SAMMIT.net. Goodbye.